Tai sveiki visi, toliau tęsim neredaguotą pokalbius, jau norėjom daryti istorinį epizodą su Viktoru apie tai, kaip krenta Maskva, bet štai pasirodė Lukašenka ir iš tikrųjų didysis diplomatas Lukašenka išsprendė kažkokius reikalus, tai bandysim su Viktoru šiandien apie viską pasišnekėti trumpai ir glaustai. So, hello Victor.
Hello.
I was introducing, to our Lithuanian audience that Lukashenko saved the day. So we have here our regular guest, Viktor Tregubov. He's a captain of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and of course, a media person, an expert of all sorts of, stuff that probably was happening the whole day today. So, Viktor, as I was telling, a major or captain?
Major.
Okay. I usually confuse that, but what can we do? Okay, so Victor, in your opinion, what was happening here today? I mean, maybe a few words. Who is Prigozhin first? And we already know that Lukashenko is here on the scene. Like, what was your first gut feeling, or I don't know, professional feeling when you saw this? This march of peaceful march towards Moscow taking place and occupying the huge city in Russia, Wagner and his his colleagues doing some great work.
First of all, it wasn't really bloodless because they actually destroyed several Russian helicopters and one plane. That's
Absolutely
cool for us. That's always cool. And for us, let's start from the basics. Prigozhin is the leader of Wagner group, so-called. He is former cook of Mr. Putin, and now he is like a major political figure in Russia, and he in specific position. He was like a main corsar, main proxy for Putin's army in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine but also in Syria and in Africa. So he is some kind of Putin's protege. However, now he is the rebel one, because he is in deep conflict with Russia Minister of Defense, specifically personally Mr. Shoigu, and with Russia General Staff. So the situation is dire for him because he wants to use his resources, his really big military resource, to gain power, political power, first of all. And his main targets for several was actually Shoigu and Gerasimov, head of Russian General Staff. And Prigozhin just wanted to show Russia, Putin, and all the world that he is effective. He is a good commander. He is a good military manager, while official Russian generals and so on are just a bunch of losers. He tried to show that he was partially successful, but the conflict became so obviously clear that there was basically only two options. Either he will do something with Shoigu and Gerasimov, or them will do something with him. So I suppose this mutiny of his is just a bold move, trying to preserve his own status, his own wealth, and this is huge, enormous wealth, and to preserve his political stance in Russia. And of course, that's something extraordinary. Of course, it's something we never seen before because, in Russia, taking Rostov is actually bigger than any Ukrainian town that was captured since the start of the full-scale war. It's actually the only big center like that. So it's for Russia, it's something unbelievable. And no one was there to stop Prigozhin. No one was there to show him any kind of restraint. And that's actually a huge symbol of overall Russia internal weakness. So basically, any guy having maybe 1200s or I beg your pardon, 12,000 of people can actually, make a mutiny in Russia, and there will be no one to stop him.
But Victor,
That's crazy.
here is a serious question. Of course, he is not an ordinary dude, and this private army is probably the biggest of the private armies in Russia. But what do you think? Was this a bold move by Prigozhin alone, or it's some kind of coordinated, operation against Putin or against Shoigu and and Gerasimov? What is the nature of this, and who are his partners?
That's a good question, but we cannot know for now for sure. I suppose it was some kind of Mussolini march 100 years ago. Prigozhin obviously he supposed that some Russian elites will help him or at least won't stop him. And it was actually true. No one tried to stop him. And that actually changes the whole political balance in Russian society. It shows actually that Putin is weak. Putin cannot do anything. Putin can just run from Moscow to St. Petersburg on his own private jet because he is afraid and there is no one to protect him. And that's absolutely shocking. That's showing that all the Russian strengths, so-called, all the Russian greatness is just some kind of Potemkin village, some kind of fake facade. So
But Victor,
for us, for all the world, that's shocking.
Yeah, the speech of Putin in the morning. How would you describe this? He looked a bit, trembling and confused. Probably the last time something like that was happening was, the Yeltsin coming to power in the early 90s. So, what can we make out of Putin's speech? And yeah, we know that he probably left Moscow on his private planes, but uh, how did he sound to you on this morning announcement?
As far as far as I know, during the previous evening, during yesterday's evening, they tried to negotiate with Prigozhin, but the result was he just told them to off. So it wasn't successful, and during the morning, Putin actually called him a traitor, and that's a serious accusation. However, after 12 hours, he used Lukashenko because he don't want to speak with Prigozhin directly, because if he will speak with Prigozhin directly, that basically means they are on the same scale. So he used Lukashenko's proxy and offers Prigozhin something for him to stop. I don't know what it could possibly be, but it should be something really, really enormously
Well,
big.
it should be the head of Shoigu and Gerasimov.
And a lot of money and a lot of guarantees and some kind of power. I don't know, because it's logical that for Prigozhin it should be logical that he will be killed if anything will go wrong. That he will be just principally assassinated. So Putin had to make some kind of deal for Prigozhin to take the risk. I don't know what it possibly could be, but the thing I know, it's cool for us. It's cool for us because it shows the world how weak Russia are, structural weak. Imagine you are a Chinese official or Chinese political expert. What will you told your country's leadership about Russia after that? Or imagine you're any other. Imagine you're Viktor Orban. So
that dude probably is gonna get some better prices, on the gas and oil.
Actually, all the world sees that Putin is unreliable. And it's not because he's not trustworthy, of course he's not, but that's not the case here. He just cannot hold the situation in his own country. He just cannot keep his own promises because he has no control in his own country.
So, in your opinion, who is controlling Russia at the moment? Is it the Kremlin towers? They have some kind of, I don't know, collegial organ, or is it the generals, or is it the private army owners? Who
I
is
suppose nobody.
nobody?
I suppose. I suppose nobody. It's a situation well, like during the civil war in Russia, 100 years ago.
But
So there,
can we call it a civil war? Because to be called civil war, you have to have a civil society, and in Russia, it's complicated.
no, not really. I suppose that's some kind of huge conflict of elites that actually is dangerous for all the structural stability of the state itself. Some civil wars was feudal wars, some civil wars was just elite wars. It can be, it's different. So for us, that's really cool because not only they just wasted several planes and helicopters for nothing, but also they showed all the world that Russia isn't a partner, Putin isn't a partner, and that actually Ukraine should be helped in this war because, I suppose that the myth of unbeatable Russia couldn't be taken seriously. Even Orban couldn't just tell that, you see, Russia is so strong, the Ukraine will never win. Well, Russia is crumbling without Ukrainian help for now. It's absolutely absurd. So this argument isn't on the table. And that's good for us.
So, Victor, before we jump on what's happening on the front lines at this day, and how the Ukrainians took advantage out of the situation, let's have a final word on Lukashenko. How is this dude, manages to get at the right place at the right time, And I saw today on Twitter that he flew with his plane towards Moscow, actually made something like a dick sign in the sky, and returned. What is he doing, and how does he manage to do this?
Nothing. He is working just as a proxy for Putin messages. He's just a messenger. I cannot believe that Lukashenko negotiated anything with Prigozhin. I just can't believe that he was a mediator, like, I don't know, like phone between him, just because Putin cannot afford to direct talks with Prigozhin. Because in this criminal psychology, direct talks means equal status.
But why choose Lukashenko? I mean, he has quite a lot of options, probably.
Who else?
Well, I'm not sure. Medvedev, maybe. I'm kidding, but somebody from this inner circle, not like because Lukashenko is still a separate entity, separate country, and the leader.
You should take someone neutral for that. You should take someone from the side, someone neutral, someone who can be like mediator officially. You cannot take anyone from your team because, Prigozhin won't speak with anyone from your team, and he will tell, okay, so I want to speak with Putin. And formally, Lukashenko is a president. We all know that's bullshit, but still, formally, he's president. And when the president calls, maybe you should answer, even if it's Lukashenko.
Okay, Victor. So, what did Ukrainians do in this whole day? Because we heard that there were surrendering Russians and some action going on in the front lines. So, what has happened?
I suppose that all the sellers of popcorn in Ukraine today have actually an annual revenue. Because for Ukrainians, it's just the greatest show ever. We were never supposed. It is really interesting for us. It's really cool for us. And actually, it is ironic because everything that Russian told about Ukraine now can be said about Russia. Failed state, military junta, Nazis under the leadership of a Jew, so, so actually, every stereotype Russians tried to impose on Ukraine is now imposed on Russians by themselves, and that's ironically, just unbelievably ironically. And of course, we are glad that it will help us in the long run because I believe that it's a huge blow to Russian image worldwide. And it's a huge blow for Russian military efforts. It's a huge blow for any actually Russian generals and elites because they had to choose sides. And they now, I suppose everyone will be afraid that maybe they chose wrong or maybe they should, maybe there will be someone to avenge for their actions. And it's cool because it now everyone in Russia, I suppose, is in fear and cannot understand what will go on in the next months. So for us, as for a country attacked by Russia, it's just a great gift.
So, Victor, I know that today is Saturday, and it's we're supposed to be, be looking for some mysterious, flower in the forest. Instead, we are talking here. So, what do you think? Like, is this Prigozhin march? Is it over? Is it possible that something can happen early morning? Or this is now going to be a different stage where this negotiation starts. What can we expect, in the future, or it's totally, unknown?
It's unpredictable because we cannot know what will be going on, what Kadyrov will do. I heard that some Chechens are near Rostov now. Will Prigozhin actually keep his forces in Rostov or not? What will be international reaction? Won't be will be any provocations or not? Is it possible that someone will try to assassinate Prigozhin? And so make consistent only from black swans. So I cannot imagine what will be.
Okay, Victor. So thank you so much for taking time and briefing our listeners, and I hope even a further audience will get some info because Victor is closer, to Rostov and to Moscow than most of us in terms of proximity and in terms of field of work that he's doing. So thanks again. We'll probably have a chat in a month or a bit less. And thanks everyone for watching, and see you in the next Let's Talk Europe Neredagota episode.